Welcome, my friends, back to the fog. There is no safety in this wretched place, no refuge or respite aside from a single lonely campfire. Beyond its light is a world of killers and savage brutes who wait excitedly to slaughter any unsuspecting survivor that they can corner for the entity. Most of these killers are solitary hunters, but there is one that is not simply one. A killer who does not stalk alone in the dark. Their name is Legion, for they are many. Frank Morrison had been from one foster family to the next. When he turned 19, he'd finally decided to settle in the dreary town of Ormond. It wasn't that the town was all that exciting to him, but he'd found something here. Or rather, he'd found someone. Julie. Julie was a little younger than him, finishing high school. She was beautiful, but most importantly, she was bored as hell. Ormond bored her. Too quiet, too drab. She sought excitement, and Frank could provide it. Frank was great at putting on masks. He was what she wanted him to be. He believed what she wanted him to. He appealed to her sense of morality, her sense of self-righteousness. He didn't believe anything himself, of course, but Frank is a master of manipulation. She hung off his every word and his every philosophy, his every suggestion. She began inviting him to her house parties, where he met her two best friends, Joey and Susie. Joey was a joker, a bit dense, but he loved getting into trouble, and Frank could respect that. Susie was naive and shy, but easily swayed, and Frank liked that about her. They became inseparable. Inspired by the local town story of the Soldiers of Mayhem, the four often met in an old cabin in the woods of Ormond to talk, drink, and just escape from the world. Frank became the center of their world for the three misfit kids, and soon they were in the palm of his hands. His ideals were their ideals. His goals were their goals. Anything he asked them to do, they would follow through with. At first, they were just mere delinquents, a local gang of reprobates, vandalizing, bullying, and stealing here and there. But Julie and Frank both wanted more out of their group. This dreary town of Ormond needed more to it. Arson, destruction, revolution. And after Joey got fired from his job at a hardware store, Frank proposed they rob the store that night to get payback. All agreed, and all donned masks to sneak into the store and rob the register. What they didn't know was a cleaner was still in the store. Seeing the kids sneak in, he grabbed Julie to use her as leverage. And that's when an idea struck Frank. Was it his desire to protect Julie? Was it his love for her? Was it his compassion for his friends? Or was it just an excuse? Was she just creating a convenient opportunity to let him show his true colors? No one can be sure, but what we do know is that Frank struck first, burying a knife in the back of the cleaner. The other three were horror-struck until Frank held out the knife. "Do it," he ordered. They had to finish what they started. They had to all be a part of this now. They were all of one mind, one goal, one body, one ambition. All had to play a part. Julie took the knife and struck. So did Joey, and even nervous Susie. With the man dead, their fates were sealed. They cleaned up the blood, carried the body to their car, and drove it away to the Ormond Lodge. There they would bury the body and all the evidence. It was the crime Frank had dreamed of, the ultimate step forward into his goals. It was more than just arson now, more than burglary and vandalism. They'd taken a life, and it felt liberating. Though none of the others said it out loud, they felt it too. All feeling what Frank was feeling, all thinking what he was thinking. One mind, many bodies. They were legion. As they walked to bury the body, Frank stopped, noticing a strange fog around the woods. Leaving the others, he chased after it until the fog surrounded his whole world. He called out to the others, and they followed, all wandering deep into the fog, and the entity welcomed the Legion into his world. Julie, Susie, and Joey's parents never found out what happened. They all just assumed that the three had run off with Frank somewhere. They all had theories, of course, thoughts and fears, but none would be confirmed until a body was discovered partly buried at Ormond Lodge. Okay, so the Legion's lore is actually very good. I'd go so far as to say it's almost too good. While many of the other killers that we've looked at are either sociopaths or down-on-their-luck individuals forced into dark situations, the Legion is a group of killers rather than one, and it could be argued that only one, maybe two, since Julie seemed about as twisted as Frank, was really a monster at heart. What's scary about the Legion is not their appearance, but rather the very nature of their origin. Peer pressure and seeking of belonging. Young people, particularly teens, are very impressionable and long for acceptance, direction, and purpose. They will do anything for it, and please the people they feel can provide them with what they need going forward. And while it's clear from the tone that Julie was kind of wanting to go the full mile with Frank and commit murder, Joey likely wasn't quite as invested, and Susie herself felt almost pushed into the act. One shudders to imagine what the future could have held for these three if Frank had never entered their lives. They could have all gone on to be successful, or delinquents, or reprobates, or honest members of society. Anything could have happened. But then Frank showed up, and everything started going downhill. Now, the concept of a legion is a frightening one for me because it's one mind occupying many bodies, or the other way around. No matter which of these four you play as or follow, they all know and share a little bit of the mind and desire of one. To kill, to slaughter, and to destroy. I think that's why I find myself loving the Legion's lore. It's tragic. It's a cautionary tale of the horrors that can come from the wrong influences and the destructions that can come with the youth of today. And I don't know who to follow or who to trust in this scenario. That's kind of the mentality, you know? That's what a kid thinks. Who do I follow? Who do I believe? Do I trust the adults who, with their rules and regulations and structure and restrictions? Or do I follow this guy who's clearly dangerous, clearly unhinged, but he's offering me the freedom I want? That's a dangerous thing to think about. And when you think about what could happen to a young person who is still yet to reach maturity and they're taking advice from someone like Frank, it's kind of freaky. But I don't like playing the Legion. In fact, I hate the Legion. I hate playing them. I find it exhausting. Let me explain why. The Legion's power is feral frenzy. When the power gog is full, press the action button to enter a mad dash. In this dashing mode, the Legion runs at incredibly fast speed and can even vault pallets and windows like survivors do. In this mode, you do not do a normal attack, but rather a feral slash. This slash injures a survivor and inflicts the deep wound status effect. Also, a successful feral slash refills the power gog, extending the amount of time you can do feral frenzy, and you can also be given Killer's Instinct notification of other survivors you can strike with feral slash who do not already have the deep wound status effect. Hitting all four survivors with Feral Frenzy Slash will result in the fifth Feral Frenzy Slash immediately putting that survivor in the dying state. However, Feral Frenzy cannot down a survivor on its own. Hitting a survivor already suffering from the deep wound status effect will immediately end the Feral Frenzy, as will running out of the power gog, or being hit by a pallet, or missing a Feral Slash. And when Feral Frenzy ends, the Legion suffers a stunned effect temporarily. Any survivor suffering from deep wounds must mend themselves before the wounds gog depletes, or they will instantly go into the dying state. However, the gog will not deplete while sprinting or while in the process of mending. Honestly, I've never seen a single survivor ever go down from the deep wound status effect. Now, the benefit of the Legion's power is the massive movement that you have while using it, allowing you to move fast around the map and catch survivors unaware and force them to stop whatever they're doing and mend themselves. The negative, though, is that it has clear drawbacks. Survivors should avoid being close to each other because smart survivors know to spread out around the Legion. You don't want to give the Legion more targets of Feral Frenzy. Plus, I'm always bullied when I play the Legion. It's just what happens, so I'm not the biggest fan of playing them. I've met some people who play them really well, so I'm not going to say they're a garbage killer, but I do know that when they first came out, people hated them.
Okay, I don't say this often, but get the f*** out, Frank!
But the entity chose us!
Well, go stand in the corner then. Wait, hang on, come back. There we go. Okay, now get out of my face.
They got a bit of a buff, so they were no longer the worst, but good lord, I don't like playing them.
Frank, your rework has been approved and you are now a hooker. Let me just get that, and there we go.
Oh, happy days! They like me now! They really, really like me!
But okay, what about the perks, though? What about the Legion's perks? Surely the Legion has good perks, right? Well, yeah, the Legion's perks are fine. The Legion has Disordnance, Mad Grit, and Iron Maiden. Disordnance is a pretty useful perk that allows you to be notified about gen rushers. So when 2 or more survivors begin working on a generator, right? That generator glows yellow and emits a loud noise notification for the Legion. And the yellow aura persists 4 seconds after the 2 survivors are no longer working on it. Now I like this perk because it allows me to stop gen rushers from teaming up and tells me where to go to maximize Feral Frenzy. I think that's what's the best thing about it. If you see a generator light up yellow, you know, okay, a group of survivors is there. So if I use Feral Frenzy there, I'm more likely to get off a few hits of it. So that's the big benefit of Disordnance for Legion. The problem is it doesn't do anything to slow down the gen rushing, so all you can do is just get there as fast as you can and try to stop it. Then you've got Mad Grit. It's useful, particularly if you pair it with Starstruck. While you're carrying a survivor, you no longer have a cooldown for missing basic attacks, and you pause the wiggle progression of the carried survivor for 5 seconds if you hit another survivor while carrying them. And one of the things survivors will sometimes do to help their comrades is body block, sabotage hooks, or flashlight you. This perk allows you to punish them without too much fear of reprisal, and combine it with Starstruck, you could down 1 or 2 survivors rather quickly. We'll talk about Starstruck when we get to the Tricksters video, but just know that Starstruck allows you to carry a survivor. Once you pick up a survivor, all other survivors within your terror radius now have the exposed status effect. So they try to run in and stop you from carrying a survivor, and you're carrying Mad Grit along with Starstruck, just have some fun knocking them down. Then there's Iron Maiden, a perk that I honestly don't get much use out of unless someone is spamming head-on. You search lockers 50% faster, and any survivor who exits a locker will scream, giving away their location for 4 seconds. They also suffer from the exposed status effect for 30 seconds. I honestly don't know why this isn't more useful. I mean, I figured it would be helpful because one of the ways to avoid Legion's Feral Frenzy is to hide in a locker, but quite often I don't see that happening. It's an odd situation. Usually when I play the Legion, I just don't come across many people hiding in lockers. It's weird. At the end of the day, the Legion is an okay killer. I don't have any problem with them personally. In terms of playability, they're pretty basic. I'm not good at playing them. I'm not very good at capitalizing on Feral Frenzy. Either that or I'm just up against really good survivors who are better than me in the chase. And that's part of my big problem. I'm not that great in the chase, which Legion is supposed to be specialized on. They are just good at running down survivors and just forcing them to stop and mend themselves rather than focus on doing their jobs. And maybe I'm just not good at capitalizing on that. That could be me. But in terms of the lore, I think they're fantastic. I think the Legion is a very unique kind of killer and a very scary one if you look at it from the proper perspective. Sure, they're not a big scary monster. They're not a spectral spirit that haunts you. They're not some bloodthirsty sociopathic doctor with a crazy idea to mess with your brain. No. But they are an idea. The idea that through peer pressure, through manipulation, through working through the minds of other people, one could become many. All working with the same idea, same dangerous ideals, same destructive personalities. Frank Morrison by himself was a problem. But now he has 3 others who share his goals and ideals. They have become more than one. They have become a vast, dangerous entity. That's what I think is so clever about the Legion. That's all I got for you this time in the fog. I will see you next time when you feel brave enough to enter along with me and we take a look at a survivor who had it rough in the star scene and is now hoping that she doesn't become the center of attention. But I'll see you next time in the fog. Take care.